Mirror Image Rentals. That's Mirror Image Rental. Let the magic begin.
Hey, this is Angel Eyes.
This is DJ K.
What's good? It's your girl, OG Ambo Slice, out of that D-Town.
And I go by the name of Wild Style.
So make sure you stay logged on
to Fishbowl Radio Network. We do it the best.
Oh, you look gorgeous. Am I on? Oh. Am I on, Gary? Okay. All right. You didn't even count me. Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is, hey, Rita, she's already joined us. This is Dr. Mary Payton with All About STEM Radio. As you know, I come to you every Wednesday here on the Blue Stream at Fishbowl from 6 to 7 o'clock. And yes, I have another outstanding guest, but you know all of my guests are amazing. But before we get started, you know I had to make my little announcements. First things first, the Arlington Museum till the end of the school year or close to the end of the school year has the children's art exhibit. So if you have a child here in Arlington ISD that is an artist and they have an exhibit there, or a child that's a relative, please go by and see what they have up, because some of these kids are amazing. Also, oh, I want to show y'all something. Hold on. I'm having a senior moment. Book 2 is here. Taylor STEM Adventures Texas has made it to Texas. Thank you, Gary. You know, last year I came out with Taylor STEM Adventures Hawaii. This year is Taylor's Adventures Texas. It will be sold starting tomorrow or Friday on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. Or if you would like to contact me, you could always email me at allaboutStemRadio@gmail.com. That's allaboutStemRadio@gmail.com. Also, let me see, anything else? Oh, nope, not right now. I want to introduce you to my guest from Impact House, Dallas, Mr. Benjamin Vann. Outstanding young man, and he is a great entrepreneur, an athlete, you know, very well spoken. He's been on a couple of shows here on Fishbowl in the past. So, you know, you may have heard of him someplace else, and he doesn't know. I'm going to steal all his patches off his laptop because they are all so cool. So, without further ado, Mr. Vann, will you introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mary, for having me on today. I'm kind of like, I feel good because you said I'm an athlete. I mean, I'm a former athlete, but.
Hey, once an athlete, always an athlete.
That's
like
what
me.
they say, but that's not how I feel.
Hey, you are still young. Come on now.
That's not how I feel. I just had a birthday yesterday, and you know, I started this 90-day training, this HIIT training this morning. And my body just feels different. You know, I don't know if it's because of the birthday or it's just because I'm washed up. Is that what they say? Washed up athlete. But no, I'm excited to be on here. You know, I had a long day with 2 flat tires, but I got here. Yes.
Gary, that sounds like you. You had that situation not long ago.
Yes, but I made it. You know. Yeah. So I'm excited to be here and talk about, you know, be on your show, learn more about what your show and what you're doing, and also just informing the people about what we got going on at Impact House. I'm excited to see my man Gary again from the Commish show. Oh, yeah. Shout out to my man Ed Gray. You know, he's still rocking the Impact shirt, so obviously we must be doing something out there.
Because I don't even know if he knew you were on the show this week, but he shows up in the Impact shirt, and I'm just, thank you, Gary.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, you make my heart sing. But anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself before you start talking about Impact House, because you know, the last time I talked to you, I was in Brownsville, and we talked for over an hour just talking.
We really did. We really did. Let me turn this volume down on here. I was trying to get the share for the Facebook set up. I think I did it, but I think we're on live. Okay, so a little bit about me. I'm a Midwest native of Wichita, Kansas.
No, that's close enough to Texas.
That's close enough to Texas. But I'm an adopted Dallasite. Dallas is my home. I love this city. It actually really taught me a lot about endurance and grit and perseverance and really just standing up for what you believe in. Dallas has been, welcomed me with open arms in terms of the opportunity that's here. I tell people, I moved to Dallas back in 2012, late 2011, early 2012 with, my parents moved into Fort Worth, Northwest Fort Worth, in a town called Saginaw. They live in Arlington now. But, I didn't know anyone when I moved here. And as you mentioned, I was a former athlete, played football at Washburn University, and was a scholarship athlete and played professional indoor football as well, arena football.
Wow.
And coached at a high school. Was the the youngest probably defensive coordinators in the league at that time that I coached at a school called Highland Park. Inner city school, and was a defensive coordinator there, and really saw the opportunities here with the corporate culture here to really just spread my wings here in Dallas. I always talk about how my family, coming back from from my family, we have a long lineage of pastors and entrepreneurs, clergymen and entrepreneurs, and so that entrepreneurial spirit in me has been a seed that's just been planted since I was. Since I could since I started cutting hair, when I was 9-10 years old. That was my first business. It started with myself, nicking myself up a few times after I got tired of getting the chili bowl cut. And then my brothers trusted me enough to start on their hair. And then as I got older, being an athlete, was an all-state track athlete, still have records there in Kansas. Also was an all-state basketball player as well. In football, there's your access, your clientele right there.
Yep.
So I became the team barber of basically every team that I was on. And that entrepreneurial spirit has just carried on into adulthood, watching my father, run multiple businesses. My uncle run multiple businesses. Both of my uncles as well. They wore many hats. My grandmother, she was one of the first women pastors in the PAW, the Pentecostal Assemblies of the World.
Really?
And she also was an entrepreneur. She was a seamstress, and her tagline was "Sewing Souls for the Kingdom." And so she made hats. She made dresses. I mean, she literally made all of our Christmas clothes, all of our Easter clothes.
She must have been talented.
Yes, we had reversible vests. I actually found out maybe 4 or 5 years ago that one of her dreams at that time, when she was, she's still young and active. She's still active, but when she was younger, one of her dreams was to be in the New York fashion design and be a seamstress. But at that time, women really didn't have opportunities outside of being a nurse or being a secretary. Or things like that, or let alone be a pastor in a very traditional Pentecostal, organization.
Oh, yeah.
Be a leader of the church for 30, 40 years. And so, I just found that out maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I took her out to Cracker Barrel, one of her favorite restaurants, when I went back home. And, just asked. Sometimes we just don't get those opportunities to really get to know our grandparents and our elders. And that's always something that I've been taught. And that carry with me is really sitting at the feet of our elders and really learning about our history and about our past and helping that shape and understand who we are as individuals. My aunt, she recently has sent me a picture of my great-great-great-grandfather in Pratt, Kansas, that owned a farm and owned all this land and had a sharecropping company and all that, and the federal government basically took their land and, basically wiped them out, as they did to many black entrepreneurs then. So for me, entrepreneurship is really about owning your own narrative and about creating your own future. And I think that's something that in the black community, as well as Hispanic community, that's something that has cost lives, has been fatal.
Yes.
in some situations. You think about Black Wall Street and things that have happened across the country when people decide that they want to own their own future. And so I believe in owning our own narrative, our own future, and empowering ourselves within our own communities, while also being open and inviting and welcoming to other cultures. My background as I like to say, living on both sides of the tracks, have been able to see both, growing up in public schools and the opportunities that are afforded there, and then being able to go to a private school in high school and kind of learn a completely different, way of life. And I always see myself as kind of an interpreter, or someone that's in the middle that can communicate both to this side as well as the other side, and how we can both effectively move together and move closer together in unity as different cultures, as different societies, backgrounds and things like that. So often I find myself in very diverse spaces throughout Dallas. And so coming to a city like Dallas, the history.
Yes.
It's a long history of racism and segregation and things like that. You kind of get thrust into the crux of that. And so that's been my experience, I would say growing up in Dallas, becoming an adult in Dallas,
See, I grew
officially.
up in Fort Worth, so
Okay.
yeah, but Fort Worth is a little bit different than Dallas. But the thing about it is, I've looked over your bio. I've gone and I've talked to you on the phone, and I've gone through your website. What I like about what you're doing is so many of our new entrepreneurs, old and young, they jump into a business and they don't really have a sense of business. They don't plan for business. And I've told Sammy, I found out I'm a business, so I'm trying to actually work things out, make a plan,
Right.
make partnerships, talk to people, get training, so that I don't hit some of the pitfalls like you mentioned earlier of closing my business, ending my business because there were things I didn't know. So let's first talk about some entrepreneurships. What are some of the things that your Impact House is doing with people who are wanting to go into business or be a business?
Definitely. So, I like to talk about businesses having, a means to, like you said, economic security, right? And so with that, with this new age of businesses, a lot of the youth that we talk to, you ask them, you want to run a business, or what do you want to be when you grow up? The days of, my father owns a trucking company, right? And the kids today, they're not growing up saying, I want to own a concrete business or, a landscape company or things like that. The things that they're seeing nowadays are YouTube stars and, social media influencers on Instagram. And these people are getting paid a lot of money to do what they do, but it's a different business model. It's a different world that we live in than traditional business. So a lot of the people that we work with, specifically with Impact House, we find a lot of founders that have a tech, really a tech spin to their business or tech-enabled business.
Yes.
But because technology has been so excluded from our community, we don't actually understand how these things work. Right, so you have kids that play around on video games, right? But they've never been taught that you can actually create your own video game.
Oh yeah.
Or they've never been taught that, that phone that you're on all day, if you're going to be on it, there's ways to monetize and make money from that, right? And so a lot of the entrepreneurs that we find just need a sense of education, community, a sense of support.
Yeah.
A lot of times they say, "Well, I need money," right? And usually when I say, what if you had anything right now, in your business, what would it be? And they say money. And then when I ask them certain other questions, they say, okay, support, being in isolation. What does the community look like? How are you taking care of yourself in terms of your health? How are you having life balance with self-care? All that goes into being an effective entrepreneur. So when you talk about, what are the types of things, I mean, it could go from product development, which historically from, Black-owned businesses, we haven't been able to participate in the product industry just because of the cost and the barriers associated, with those industries. So a lot of our businesses have been service-based, right? We've been, hotel, bellsmen or we do, laundry services, or more service-based industry where it actually demands your time. And so I always tell people, how can you figure out a way to buy your time back, right, as an entrepreneur? And for a lot of black owned businesses, I think the stat right now is 97 or 96% of black owned businesses right now are sole proprietorships, meaning that they don't have employees. And in business, it's impossible to scale a business if you're not working on the business versus in the business.
Exactly.
And because of a lot of our businesses are service based, we're so attached to performing that service, right? Versus teaching someone else how to do that service. Now you can go out and get 5 or 10 more clients, right? Hire another person, teach them your methods, right? Documenting how you do things. And that's a lot of things that we're not taught on how to do. So,
and you're so right. And one of the things that you mentioned was taking your time back, because growing up, and my mother owned the cleaners, I watched her just work really, really hard for many, many years. And then after a while, she closed the cleaners down and then went back to work for somebody else. But the thing is, we will work and work and work, but say, well, I'm in business, but you're still working.
Yeah, you still have a boss. At that point, now you're your own boss, with quotation marks. But that still means rules and regulations and things that you're subjected to. Now, how to get out of that is how do you buy back your time, right? So that's systematizing your business, right? So that's putting systems in place, which is the benefit of technology, that allows people to do that. Nowadays with technology, you can have an automated, service do all your marketing, right? That does all your posts.
Okay.
For example, for our business, we use tools like Hootsuite, Buffer, Zoho Social. These things allow you to auto post on social media, to now you don't have to actively do the posting on your social media, right? So that's getting you out of the business per se. But
I'm making notes of this.
Write those down. But those are tools that, not only just tech entrepreneurs, right? Because I think sometimes we get afraid of the word tech when we talk about it, but small business owners can implement these little strategies within their business to help them, gain more clients or have more time to actually do more effective things that generate more revenue to their company. Small things could be like, just having a POS system,
Okay, what's a POS system?
Point of sale system.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay. I just downloaded a point of sale thing on my phone, and my son was so funny. I said, I need you to order me a square to go with my
the Square app. Yep.
Yeah, because I downloaded the app. He goes, Mother, I just ordered you one last week.
Yeah.
I'm like, where is it? On the table. So I mean, my kids have to try to keep me straight because they know I'm like doing 90 things. He goes, I knew you were gonna need one, so I went on and got one for you. And I'm like, thank you.
And I think the biggest thing is not so much, being the next Mark Zuckerberg or being the next Jeff Bezos, but really looking at, from a culture standpoint, how can technology benefit our culture and our way of life and how we do business? Every culture does business differently. When you go to Japan or you go to third world or developing countries like India, you shake someone's hand with the right hand. That's actually a sign of disrespect.
Yep.
So if you think about just business in general and practices, we need to be able to leverage these strategies and tools to be able to better fit with our culture, right? So that's implementing those small things like technology to help us do better and be more efficient. So, Impact House, I know you kind of asked, what are we doing in that space?
That's okay.
But, from a community standpoint, what we're really doing is building a community first or a community driven system to train and develop women and minorities, particularly in the tech space. So that is an industry where only 2% of venture capital goes to women and minorities, right?
Yep.
So venture capital is a 300 and something odd $1 billion industry, right? That places like Silicon Valley have literally created hundreds of millionaires in the past 5 to 10 years. But you see time and time again that people of color and women aren't participating in that economic mobility. And so when you look at DFW and a lot of that money and that capital that's coming out of California, they're looking to come to places like Texas because we're tax friendly, for businesses. Our cost of living is lower. You can get more square footage for a house in Dallas and Frisco.
Even though the prices have gone up, you can still get more.
You can still beat a house, an apartment in California,
yes,
right?
Yes, you can.
on any scale, right? So you think about the run rate, the burn rate for an entrepreneur, basically how fast they're spending their money. They can move to DFW and have more, longevity and time and how they're spending their money, and their entrepreneurship can go a long ways. And then you have a place where in Dallas, where each city is its own little kind of community.
Yes, it is.
You have Frisco that's kind of known for its esports and its sports arenas and that kind of environment. You have Las Colinas that's known for its corporate culture and how they're building that ecosystem there. You have Southern Dallas that has a lot of the warehouse and distributing, logistics, supply chain companies, and you really can set yourself up to where you have a diversified client base, when some other states and cities don't have that luxury that Dallas has. So to have access to this huge amount of people, resources, corporate culture, international airport, make Dallas an attractive city for businesses, especially tech businesses, because there's no inventory. Right?
And the thing is, especially being here in the Metroplex, we growing up here in Fort Worth and Dallas have grown together. You haven't been around long enough, but Fort Worth and Dallas have truly grown together. And the only way that it can change is, like you say, the tech entrepreneurship. A lot of land has been covered and filled up, but people coming in, smarter people, technology coming in, a lot of companies are moving in, and these things have to be supported.
Right.
We are like a different version of the Silicon Valley.
Right.
And people still need services. People still need supplies, chains, and all of those things. But how we do business is drastically changing.
Right.
Because it's to get a hair appointment with a lot of beauty. I know I'm going into the service oriented situation. You go online,
you got an app.
Select, you got an app, select the day and time you want your appointment, and then you go in.
Right. And then that technology, so for example, I'll use the beauty industry, like you said, the hair salons. There's been technology, actually a company out of, I want to say McKinney, but basically Dallas, DFW, called ShearShare. And basically what they did is they created an app or a platform that allows beauty stylists, barbers, beauticians, etc., to be able to travel anywhere and rent out a booth anywhere they go.
Oh.
So now you're looking at competition, you don't have just a client base in Dallas. Now you can go to Atlanta and rent out so-and-so's studio and have a client base in Atlanta, right? And you think about the cost of travel and how that's going down. I just went to Austin for less than $12.
You're going to tell me how you did that.
It's an app called Flixbus. I should be getting paid for this.
No, you advertising for free today, so
for free, right?
So give us what you can.
So
give us.
Lix App is an app that I just discovered last week. I had a flight that was going to LA for my birthday weekend, and we ended up canceling because we have a hackathon coming up.
Okay.
That we're doing in partnership with Urban League, and we were doing a run through. So I was like, okay, I'll cancel the flight and I'll push it out. Maybe we'll do something else later on through the year. But then a friend had shared this Flix bus app from Culture Map on Facebook. So it's like 99 cents travel to Austin, San Antonio, or Houston from Dallas. And so I was like, this can't be real. So I looked it up, and it actually was. I downloaded the app, and literally I bought my it was a round trip for $11.95. And it was only that because I paid extra to reserve my seats. Because I said, everyone has to know about this, like if it's 99 cents, so let me reserve my seats so we have seats. But if you think about the cost of travel, right? I just went to Austin for $12. If I was a barber or a beautician or a stylist, I could have 50 clients in Austin and get to Austin and spend $12, do hair all weekend, right? And then the next weekend go to San Antonio, do the same thing. The next weekend go to Houston, do the same thing, and then come back to Dallas and still have my regulars, right? You can literally travel every weekend of the month to those three cities plus Dallas and have a whole different book of business. And so that's the scalability, that's the power that technology has that I believe we should be taking be taking advantage of. So,
and you're so right. Now, going through, like I say, I spend far too much time on your website because I'm like, oh my goodness.
And it's not even finished yet. We've been kind of
trying
to keep it low.
Stuff on it.
Yeah, as we launch more things, we'll add more things to the site. When you do something different, you kind of have to protect
Yeah.
You know, you have to protect your things. Yeah. Even though as a pioneer, you have to deal with that. People are going to imitate and you know.
Oh, yeah, they
try
will.
to.
Oh, yeah.
You
hey,
know.
Before we go any further, I want you to tell people how to connect with you.
Yes.
You don't give out your personal phone number or anything like that because that, you know. No, ladies, I don't know if he's married or not. That's not our business. He's a young entrepreneur, and he is fabulous. So tell people how to get contact you.
So I typically dwell in LinkedIn.
Okay.
That is a very good space for me, for people in general. If you're not taking advantage of LinkedIn, definitely take advantage of LinkedIn. That's where all the decision makers are. So you can connect with me on there at Benjamin J. Vann. On LinkedIn, that's Benjamin J. and last name is Vann at V-A-N-N. Obviously, I'm on Instagram and Twitter at @Iam_Benjamin J. That's on Instagram and Twitter. But I mainly use LinkedIn more for business.
Yeah.
And then my like page is at Benjamin J. Vann as well on Facebook. And so that's where this is being shared right now.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's how you can find me personally.
Great. Now, on your page, you talk about tech careers. You have a section on there about that. Tell me, how do you see that changing a little bit more than like the scheduling and stuff like that for our minority communities, especially our women minority communities?
Definitely. I mean, so I'm a former finance guy, so I love numbers and I love data. So you always have to have a baseline or a benchmark, right?
Yeah.
And so in the tech industry today, 83% of executives in the tech industry are white straight males.
Oh yeah.
That's 83%. When you look at the education sector, only 16% of inner city schools have access to computer science education, right? When you look at the college and the university sector, only 22% of people are graduating with computer science and tech careers, right? So if you look at that from a pipeline standpoint, you got 16%, 22%, and then this huge gap as 83%. So roughly like 15, 14, 12% in the industry that have leadership positions. So if you look at it from a pipeline standpoint, it's really, some people can see it as a negative and say, wow, these stats are like, you know, outrageous, right? Or you can see it as an opportunity and say, okay, how can we actually strengthen this pipeline from middle school all the way up to their first job, you know, in the tech industry, right? And so the way I really see it and how it benefits our communities is it starts with exposure to the education and exposure, right? And so a lot of that is because if you think about, you know, I'll take it back to our grandmothers and their myths around magic and voodoo and, you know, and things like that.
Yeah,
but there was a time where technology was seen as the devil's tools, right?
Yeah, turn off the computers using too much electricity.
Exactly. And that preserving energy. But for the most part, there's all these I just call them barriers, right?
Yeah.
Barriers to access within our communities that have never truly exposed us to the benefits and the power of technology. So when I look at the workforce, I look at examples like Google, who just did away with having to have a bachelor's degree to get employed with them. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Great,
Google is now looking at skills, right? So if you look at that pipeline and you see what K through 12 is doing, you see what a lot of colleges are doing, they're moving more to this credentials, certifications, badges, kind of like almost gamifying your skill set to where companies are now looking to say, okay, a 4-year degree tells us that you have theory, right? Or do you understand theory? But hard skills is what tells you that you can actually do the job. And in technology, that's what they need, those hard skills. And so I see opportunities for us that the myth of, oh, if I go into technology, I have to know how to code, right? There are many other
that's
jobs.
That's the things they make you think.
Right. That is what society has always painted, you know, this
yeah.
picture of you have to be a super nerd and know how to code and all these different languages to get into technology. But there are sales positions in technology. There are marketing positions in technology. There are project management jobs in technology. There are people management jobs in technology. There are network support, there's customer service. Like, there are a number of opportunities within the tech sector that don't require having to learn another language, right? And so specifically what we're doing is we're trying to aggregate all those what we call training partners.
Yes.
And bringing them to a table to say, how can we provide options for individuals who want to get into, who have a creative sense but don't know about UX and UI design, right? Understanding what is user experience, what is user interaction design, because they have this creative, mind, or they have this creative touch, but not understanding that they can use that in the technology sector with all these commercials that are being created. I mean, the websites that you see, the designs, the graphics, all those things are created by people in the tech industry that don't require, coding. And so I really see it as an opportunity for us to create more exposure, awareness, pipeline opportunities to really get people involved in what I think is going to be, what they say is the next fourth generation industrial revolution. So this whole Internet of Things and ensuring that the opportunities afforded there are evenly distributed throughout culture. Yeah. And so that's kind of what we do on the workforce element, and we have an exciting number of partnerships in the pipeline right now that we're going to be really announcing later into this year, into next year. Yeah.
And I'm looking at what you're doing and thinking about what you're doing. We no longer have that excuse of, well, I'm not going to get this because I'm a minority, or I'm not going to get this because I'm a female. If you have the product and it's, technology based, a lot of times they won't even know,
who's behind
it. And not that you're secretive or anything, is that people are going to know that you're good, and that's what they're going to go for. Again, getting those reviews, like going back to the hairdresser and the barber situation, you get those reviews from your clients. People going like, oh yeah, I want to set an appointment with her or with him. Or you have someone who needs a website or a database built, and they have great reviews. Oh, wait a minute, I need to go with them. They're affordable. They are they have good communication,
right.
with their clients. They don't, they have good communications with their clients. If you have a question, let me go with them and have them, work through my website. Fix my website or make my database for my clients or whatever, because that is going to be extremely, extremely important in the future, especially, like I said, me growing up, your client list was in a tablet. You write people down, and you go back and forth. Oh, here's their phone number.
It was
now
in the Rolodex, right?
Don't go there.
I have 2 Rolodexes. I know I'm old. I'm an old man in a young body, but
hey.
I actually do have 2 Rolodexes. I remember the Rolodexes. I keep them. I keep every business card that I have. That is social capital.
It is.
That is social capital. I know people use technology, but sometimes it's nice just to thumb through and be like, I remember when I met this person. You remember the moment. You remember their face.
Yep.
And so I
you
do
just
weird
tape
stuff
that
like
business card to one of the sections in that room.
Right.
And that's what you do. But you're so right. Business is changing. How we do business is changing. And being an adult, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, because I've harped on this several times. A lot of the people that I have on the show are people who, excuse me, I need to do something real quick. Hello, hey, Mickey, how you doing? And Stephonia, and who else? That's Gary. How are all y'all doing? Anyway, I've got some great people. You have a lot of people that are showing up here, and thank y'all for listening. I love it. But
I can't see y'all, but hey.
But how we're doing business is totally changing.
It is.
But as I was saying, one of the things we harped on our talk when I was down in Brownsville was, you are doing something that very, very few people are doing, and that's helping adults to make that transition into the STEM-based world. Now, how did you come up with that decision or that mission, to see that, that was something that was needed?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, entrepreneurship was definitely in my family past and our bloodline. And in Dallas, Fort Worth, our startup community is really young. I mean, compared to other cities, it's only like 4 or 5 years old.
Okay.
And so me being in and around the startup community, having a background in corporate kind of gave me that effective like corporate polish, knowing processes, procedures, testing, all those things. And so, being in a space where I didn't really feel like there was an opportunity for people of color in the tech startup world.
Right.
In the community, there was no outlets, things like that. But across the country, you have things that take off like Afro Tech, which is out in Silicon Valley, and Blacks in Tech, that's out in Chicago. Black Tech Matters, that's out in D.C. and Baltimore area. I mean, you have all these major cities that are starting these affinity-based groups, that corporations are getting behind and institutions and foundations are getting behind. And for us, it was kind of like, well, why aren't we getting on this bandwagon? Why aren't we jumping on this? Because the future is here.
Yes.
It's already changing. And so having that background, really being in the social impact community, a lot of my work has been centered around equity and within the entrepreneur space, as well as small business, and access to different communities in terms of resources. So many don't know this, but I'm an appointed official of the city of Dallas.
Ooh.
And so I was appointed to what's called the South Dallas Opportunity Fund, which is a fund that oversees economic development and social stimulus to a South Dallas Fair Park area.
Okay.
And so we oversee a fund that dictates policies as well as capital that people in that community can apply for, whether it be loan for their business or whether it be a grant for their nonprofit. And so a lot of the work that I've done up until this point outside of the corporate world has been in the social impact space. So kind of being a practitioner in that field, like how are you actually showing impact? So merging this background of, on the ground social impact, working with organizations, serving on numerous boards as a consultant as well, and then this background in corporate finance and entrepreneurship, merging those together in this social impact space was like, okay, how do I make these two work? You can actually do business and do good at the same time. So really fell in love with social entrepreneurship and the opportunities that it allows individuals to who want to be in business, but then have this like personal mission statement that they're attached to in terms of a certain cause that allows them to do them at the same time. Now, marrying that with our landscape of how business is changing and technology, it said, okay, here's an opportunity to infuse technology as well into that. But as I said, there wasn't really a space for us within the tech, startup community for people to really get engaged and have a sense of community involvement. Because I mean, typically the tech sector is more, Ivy League, white frat boys, with the family's money to kind of, toy with and kind of play with. We don't have the luxury of having, Uncle Ned who can write us a check, for our first, seed investment, right? And so when you talk about access to capital within that space, because the tech space is all about scalability, it's all about, how quickly can you exit the company at its highest valuation. There weren't a lot of opportunities for us in that space. And so as I was talking with different ecosystem builders around the country, asking them how they got started, what struggles were they having? We kind of took all those best practices from different places and say, okay, like places out of Atlanta with Goody Nation and some of those guys that are doing awesome things there, to say, okay, how can we bring back those best practices and create something that's relative to DFW's market? And the thing about it is, why I'm so excited about it is because Silicon Valley is now trying to go back and right a lot of those wrongs in leaving out women and people of color in those opportunities, right? So they have all these diversity initiatives going on back that place. And so we're looking at DFW from a regional standpoint and saying, how can we bake in the diversity and the inclusion and build that community within the greater tech ecosystem as it develops and builds itself, being a young tech ecosystem? How can we have that baked in so that 20 years down the line, we don't have to come back and say, oh yeah, let's kick off this diversity and inclusion initiative, after all the money's been made, all
Yep.
the, you know what I mean? All the opportunities have been taken, all the jobs have been taken. And we look at, things like, McDonald's, who is automating a lot of their jobs, and,
Oh, yeah.
a lot of the, I like to call new collar jobs. Have you ever heard of that term?
No, I was going to ask you what that was.
So new collar, so if you think about, historically there's been white collar jobs
Yeah,
and
and blue collar,
right, and blue collar jobs. And the new collar jobs are basically jobs that require a skill, just like a plumber would, just
Yeah.
like a technician, electrician, in that world of having a hard skill set. And then the white collar jobs of like accountants and lawyers
Yeah.
and people in that space, these new collar jobs are now forcing these people that are blue collar jobs and white collar jobs to learn new skills.
Yes.
To learn new skills that they didn't need before, that the economy is demanding now. So we're calling this new collar job opportunities for individuals to learn more about, how do they get into network support? How do they get into these opportunities, like being a scrum master and things like that, that typically were only reserved for a certain market that was kind of hidden,
Yes.
For example, like when the color television and all those things came out in the microwave, we didn't know who was creating those things. When the computer came out and the computer basically took up this whole room.
I remember the Ada system.
We didn't know who created those. I remember the first, my generation, the millennial generation. I'm the older millennial. And so we actually grew up in a generation where we had the first Apples, the Apple computers with the black screen,
That
with
little
the green
box.
with
I
the Apple
remember
II,
those.
the Apple III,
Yep.
with the black screen and the green letters, and like those were the computers that I grew up on in elementary school, right?
Yeah.
But we also seen, when the Mac came in, and we had a Macintosh in the house, and we upgraded to the transparent with the colors where you can pick your own color
Yep.
Mac. And so we actually got to see that generation from, caller ID to, flip phone to Razor, now to Apple smartphones. So we've kind of been in that generation where we still remember the good times.
And we won't talk about what I came up with. I remember having to change out the cartridge in my Atari computer to do a spell check. But we won't go there.
Right.
But
So
why not?
So when you
But,
talk
yeah.
about adults, like I said, the STEM space for youth is definitely something that is a huge focus and that is needed. But at the same time, it's kind of like we have to burn both ends of the candle, right?
Yes.
If we're going to solve the problem, like we can't just focus on the youth, but then you have adults who are being displaced out of their jobs and being replaced out of their jobs.
Yes.
Or need new skills to get back into the workforce. Because I mean, retirement nowadays, people are not even thinking about retirement. They're like, I'm never going to be able to retire. Right? So if you think
And
about
forget Social Security.
right, so if you think about those individuals who are 50 and above, right, who thought that they could retire, but now they're like, oh, my savings is actually going down faster than I thought.
Oh, yeah.
Let me learn this data management or this data science or this project management or things like that don't require a lot of physical labor, but allows them to still use their, at least if they're computer literate, to where they can learn a skill that doesn't require a whole new coding language and things like that. So
And you have a lot of people who work from home.
Yep.
You for some reason you can't go to work. You're injured, but you can still work, and they got to know how to do things from home.
Yep.
As opposed to having to go into a building, telecommuting. And if you can't do that, you may end up losing your job.
Right. No, you're exactly right. I mean, when I worked at Fidelity, we were interfacing with teams in India. One of the departments I worked in, we actually had a live screen that connected us with our team in North Carolina.
Yep.
And we would hop on calls, we would hop on, video, and we would work, from there. If there was an opportunity where we couldn't come in because, traffic was crazy or something like that, or I got a flat tire, I could always take my laptop back home and work.
Yep.
So workplace, there's been an evolution in that, right, to where now you just need a laptop and sometimes even a smartphone to work from. So the focus on adults for us is really, 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 for me, it's really, heartfelt, because I feel like the opportunities for adults are not afforded to us. And when you think about the awareness around that, like, people are 30, 40, 50 years old, and there's opportunities that they're not taking advantage of simply because they don't know.
And some of them think, well, I'm too old to learn how to do this. I'm too old to figure out this technology.
Yep.
My brain can't absorb that. Y'all need to stop that, okay? Y'all have to stop that, because you will just be amazed at what you can do, what you can learn, and what it can do for you as far as keeping you in the work sector. Because a lot of them like, well, I can't find a job because I don't have this skill set.
Right. We had a workshop last when was that, 2 weeks ago, on testing your product, testing your prototype, your MVP. Okay. And we had in that workshop, the person with the most energy was a 60-plus-year-old man who had an idea that he was excited about, that we're currently working with him on. But he had no fear. He had no, maybe I'm too old to do this. Or in the technology sector, you see people, of all ages, of all colors and kinds and shapes, really getting involved and taking advantage of the opportunities. So, I mean, I saw it firsthand, in the workshop, the person with the most energy who was asking all the questions and answering all the questions, he was 60-something years old. So it really levels the playing field. Tech really levels the playing field for everyone.
It does.
In terms of costs, I mean, now all you need is a laptop and a smartphone, versus before, if you wanted to start a business, you needed equipment.
Oh my
goodness. You needed
goodness.
a building. Now you have an e-commerce building and you never even need a space. You never even need a storefront.
Because look at Amazon, or what is the other one where you bid? My brain has stopped. There's eBay. Every store that you can imagine that you can buy stuff from, Macy's, Dillard's, all of those. You don't have to go in the store. Just order it online. Right. And now you can order your groceries. You don't even have to go to the grocery store. I've never tried it.
I downloaded the app. It actually worked. It worked pretty good, even though a lot of my items that I was requesting for weren't on the shelf. It was a unique experience.
Yeah.
So, but I'm challenging myself to not get used, not get hooked on the technology so much.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you,
depend on it.
Living out of the country, a lot of my friends and peers, I don't think they would ever go anywhere to, you go order water. Oh, okay, I need a case of water, and somebody bring it to them. I need phone minutes. Somebody bring them phone minutes. I'm like, really? You could have walked to the corner. Oh, I didn't feel like it. Okay. But anyway, I digress. Because we are about 5 minutes left. But I want to talk about a couple of the events that you've just had and the events that you've got coming up.
Yes. So we just, wow, this year has already been crazy. We had our Hack Dfw event that was back in February. Okay. That was the conclusion of our Hack the Culture series, where we were really trying to address the barriers for women and people of color in technology. And that kind of spurred us into our 2019 plan, which we're really developing our 3-year strategy for 2020-23. And we just came off of Dallas Startup Week. On Friday, we concluded our State of Tech Inclusion event, where we brought out different leaders within the entrepreneurial ecosystem to really talk about how we can work together better as a community and really kind of solidify the opportunities and the relationships and the value that each of these organizations can provide. For example, we had the Director of Economic Development for the City of Dallas there, and he was telling people around how technology impacts the city, how people starting startups impacts the city on different levels, how they're kind of championing innovation and that kind of being a realm that they're trying to figure out. But how do they include us in those opportunities? We had individuals from Tech Talent South, which is a training program for individuals looking to get into computer science or data science or any type of computer science. People that are in the audience are like, I want to become a developer. How do I do that? Right? Connecting them directly to those individuals. We had a representative from Paul Quinn that was talking about what they're doing at Paul Quinn College in terms of their continuous learning programs and their digital mastery programs. So really just talking about how can the ecosystem, the inclusive ecosystem, really work together.
Yeah.
Because not that the greater ecosystem doesn't have a focus, but I think there needs to be a dedicated focus to it. Like sometimes there's initiatives, and there's events, and there's one-time things that go along. But having a dedicated focus to support these entrepreneurs from a culture standpoint means a lot. And I think the more Dallas can embrace that and Texas can embrace that, I think it's going to kind of lift all boats. Everyone's going to benefit from it because there'll be uncovered talent. There'll be uncovered opportunities that these startups can really take advantage of. So what we have coming up on the plate is we have our next workshop that's going to become the Intro to Tech Entrepreneurship. So we've started a 5 workshop series for the next 5 months. We'll be breaking down different elements of kind of startup entrepreneurship and the startup life cycle, which is kind of different than small business development, but still kind of mirrors each other in certain ways. Yeah. We also have our Founders Fridays is going to be kicking off in May as well. Every first Friday of the month, we'll have African American and Latinx and other underrepresented groups in technology, whether it be a professional or whether it be someone who's interested in being an entrepreneur or as a current entrepreneur. We'll be meeting for a happy hour. So it'll be a happy hour event every first Friday of the month. Just getting together, talking about what we're working on, how to collaborate. I'm looking for a business partner. I'm looking for a CTO. I'm looking for someone in marketing, really helping us really learn how to collaborate and foster relationships together. We also have our Tribe Talk event that's coming up. Our first one is in June. That is our quarterly event in which we partner with corporations. And we basically say, corporations are like, we can't find diverse talent. We can't find these individuals who have the opportunities or want the opportunities. So we said, okay, corporations, we'll bring the talent to you. Right. So every quarter, we're going to be partnering with a different corporation and going to their headquarters and letting them hear about the challenges within our community and getting opportunities for them to do resume critiques, to do on-site interviews, to really just bring value to the corporations within these open jobs and get people opportunities and get them plugged in to where they need to be. So we have all that coming up. And then the big thing is our Accelerator Program. So that is our flagship program, our 12-week program. It is our Entrepreneur Accelerator. And we're going to be opening up our interest meetings in August. So you'll be able to apply. So if you have a tech startup or tech-enabled, if you're a small business owner that wants to implement technology, this program is for you. It's a 12-week program. It will start in May 1st of 2020. And then we will be kind of kicking off our interest meetings in August all the way into the end of the year on selecting our 10 founders to go through the program. Okay.
Now, we're getting ready.
I know you got it. It took more than 5 minutes there.
Gary's over here clicking, and that's fine. I love him. Hey, Danita, I see you're on. But tell people how to contact you, connect with you one more time.
Yes, so you can connect with Impact House at Impact House Co. on Instagram. We are on social media, Impact House, as well as LinkedIn now. And you can find us on Twitter as well, at Impact House Co. You can find me at IM_Benjamin J on all social media, but I mainly use LinkedIn. So you can find me there at Benjamin J. Vann on LinkedIn. So.
Okay. Well, hey, Benjamin, it has been a pleasure
to be continued
with you having you on here today, and you came in knowing what you wanted to say, and you made my job extremely.
Was that Danita that popped on?
Bailey?
Oh no, different Danita. I was gonna say Danita taught me, but it's a different Danita. She's a PR.
Oh, she's probably on here too, because there's so many people on here. I'm just loving it. Hey, Lisa. But
yes, thank you for having me on.
It's been great.
Yes.
Okay. So, ladies, gentlemen, this has been Benjamin Vann from Impact House Dallas. and he's told you how to get a hold of him. Awesome, awesome young man. And in closing, I want to tell people, don't forget, if you'd like to advertise here on All About STEM Radio, please either message me on Facebook, or you can email me at allaboutstemradio@gmail.com. Also, my new book, Taylor's STEM Adventures, will be for sale on Amazon either tomorrow or Friday. Please, please, please buy it. This is Taylor's STEM Adventures, Texas. And I want to tell you, I will be back next week with Miss Langoria and Miss Smith, teacher and a principal from Hill Elementary here in Arlington, and Principal Boyd from Ellis Elementary, also here in Arlington. And they're going to talk about STEM in elementary education, and you're going to love it. So until then, bye-bye.